I'd like to call this meeting to order. If I could get folks' attention. Shh. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to your Innovation, Grants, Technology, Commerce, and Trade Committee. I'm joined by my colleagues, Councilwoman Martinez, Councilman Buscaino, and this will likely be one of our shorter hearings. But we have a couple of items on the agenda. Mr. Espinosa, are there any general public comment cards?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, no public comment cards. Public comment is closed. Unless there is an objection from my colleagues, I'd like to move items 3 through 6 on consent.
Move approval.
Okay, seeing no objection, items 3 through 6 will be approved on, well, I should say, first, are there any comment cards on any of those items?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, no comment cards on those items. Then, without objection, we'll move items 3 through 6 on consent, which leaves us, starting with item 1, there's been a request to continue that item from Mr. Buscaino for 2 weeks. Happy to honor that request. Without any objection from my colleagues, we will honor that request and we will continue item 1 for 2 weeks until the next hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. And now we will move to item 2. Mr. Espinosa, would you please read that into the record?
Item number 2 is a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to the Innovation and Performance Commission recommendations for funding from the Innovation Fund for various projects.
Good afternoon. I'm Bianca Swan, Project Coordinator for the Innovation and Performance Commission. The Innovation and Performance Commission is recommending funding for 4 Innovation Fund items. Department of Transportation pop-up bikeways in the amount of $100,000. Board of Public Works Clean LA contest in the amount of $35,000. Personnel Department electronic statement of personal history, ESOF, electronic background investigation software for the amount of $121,000, and Personnel Department electronic digital x-ray production in the amount of $37,018. Would you like me to go through an overview of each item before I call up department staff, or do you want to go through them individually?
Why don't we go through each item individually?
Okay.
So you can overview the first and bring up the staff and et cetera.
All right. The Department of Transportation is requesting $100,000 to produce a functional prototype of pop-up bikeways. In partnership with Sarah's Cycling Group, Department of Transportation will use this prototype as a public outreach tool to show the public what bikeway infrastructure will look and feel like. It would also help designers learn how the prototype will function and provide temporary infrastructure for events such as Ciclavia. The proposed timeline of this pilot from concept development to release for pre-production is up to 8 months. If Bridget will come up from Department of Transportation, we'll answer any questions you may have regarding the item.
Well, great. Have you identified the locations for the pilot program?
Good afternoon. I'm Bridget Smith, Chief of Staff for LADOT. No, we haven't yet. This is really an opportunity for us to develop a new device, and I brought a few photos I was hoping to share with you just to kind of give you a sense of what we're talking about. This is an exciting opportunity for us to find something that we can put in just for the day. Currently, we have things like those A-frame barriers and other really not very attractive things that we can do to protect cyclists just for the day, and maybe during Ciclavia or a construction project, or even just to demonstrate a project idea. It would be really useful to have something that was a little more aesthetically pleasing and functional to help us protect bicyclists while they're in the roadway. So the idea here is really just to develop the actual device. And the pilot locations will be developed as we move forward and see how the device development goes.
So, really, go ahead, Ms. McKee.
So how many out of the $10,000, how many of these projects, or how many of these projects can you afford to do the $100,000? A couple of weeks ago, we had Connect the Dots and Van Nuys, so we did something similar to this, which was actually pretty cool for the community because they can sort of see visually what it would mean to sort of show the cyclists and how to move around regular street traffic. But how many of these could you afford to do? of these examples or pilot projects?
That's a great question, and we're happy to keep you updated as we learn more about the product that we develop. The proposal that we have and the idea we have is to start off developing about 200 to test and to do materials testing. We have to make sure it's something that's safe for people in the public to be around, and then eventually end up with 20 of these they're not going to be permanently installed anywhere. They would be sort of like traffic cones. There would be something that we could bring out to a site and put up at the time and keep in our cadre and use as needed. So it would be a new tool for us in our toolkit. And so they could be utilized in various locations, and we thought about 20 would be enough to start with a demonstration.
Yeah, just keep Van Nuys in mind.
Hold on, wait. Come over here.
Right now, exactly where I want them. I am not shy to advocate for CD6.
That's right.
So, and the reason is because if it would be helpful for us if we ever do have the dedicated bike lanes along Van Nuys Boulevard, if we do those R2 improvements, this would come in handy.
Yes.
Good things happen when you show up to committee. I think we can just divide up our respective council districts, the $100,000 on these pop-up bikeways.
Sounds like a plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I can,
Please.
thank you. I too, like Ms. Martinez, is fired up over this opportunity. In Wilmington, we have the highest number of bike lanes, I believe, in the city of Los Angeles, and we're focusing on Avalon, which is an effort of creating our own great street. And what a perfect opportunity to showcase this on Avalon in Wilmington. We are putting together a number of art walks and going to be installing a number of decorative lights up and down the boulevard. So really looking forward to seeing this pilot project implemented. My question is on a serious note, I know that me and Nuri want to see this on our council district. Is this going to be an application process, or we apply for these opportunities to install these temporary bikeways?
Again, so the concept before you right now is we need to develop this and see if we can make something that will fit into our environment and work in the way that it was conceived. This idea, we were really fortunate to have Gensler Architects Summer Internship Program do some brainstorming around some of the dilemmas we have about limitations on materials, and this is an idea that they came up with.
So
and
this product doesn't exist?
It does not exist. I know
Oh.
it looks like it does in those
Looks like
photos.
yeah, you're like, okay.
And it looks fantastic, and we
Right.
hope that it will come to fruition just like we see pictured there, but we don't know yet. And this is an exciting moment for us to partner with manufacturers who actually do have experience in testing and designing new materials that go in the roadway.
I can't believe this doesn't exist anywhere in the country.
Yes.
Is this Councilmember O'Farrell?
It is. It is, Mitch.
I'm not certain.
It is. Yes. It is good. It's Gensler for you, though.
So we are working on actually developing the device. If we're successful and it comes out as we hope, then it's something that we could use in so many different ways, as you're already imagining, and also other cities around the country will be eager to use, and it will end up going into manufacturing, not by the city of Los Angeles, by someone else, and be available as new things get available.
Just another opportunity. Another opportunity for us as a committee to recognize and celebrate the work the IPC is doing through the Innovation Fund. I want to recognize the mayor as well for leading this effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, great. This is a good item. I think we all like it, and I think it has a lot of possibilities for this. So we'll move on to item 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Public Works requests $35,000 to develop a Clean LA contest with the purpose to engage communities to keep Los Angeles clean. Board of Public Works will partner with the Bureau of Sanitation and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment on outreach and implementation of the contest. The pilot will contain 3 components: the contest, in which neighborhood councils will compete to improve their neighborhood cleanliness index, develop marketing materials to raise awareness of the My LA 311 mobile app, and to develop and implement an outreach plan to market the contest to increase public awareness through the work of an intern who will also conduct research on the success of the campaign. And I have Commissioner Heather Repenning and Fernando Compost to speak to the item.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I'll give a little bit of an overview of kind of where this is coming from and why, and then I'll turn it over to Fernando, our executive directive, to talk specifically about what the funding will do. Clean streets, as you know, is something, cleanliness is something that the City Council has looked a lot at recently with the CAO's livability report. Councilmember Vizcaíno was key to that, Councilmember Cedillo, and there's been a lot of interest. The mayor as well released Executive Directive number 8 last spring. And so what's happened is that we've put some new resources in place at sanitation to really start to get to the cleanliness of our city and really start to be able to impact those areas that are of greatest need, including the Clean Street Strike teams, including new trash bins in the public right-of-way, including some contract funding for our Office of Community Beautification contractors to do weed abatement and light litter removal. That's all happened this fiscal year. We are actually in the process of concluding, putting together the first index of the city, which is something that the mayor's executive directive called for. We have looked at every neighborhood in the city, and we're putting the data together, and it is going to be something that we release soon to guide the deployment of services at sanitation. It's a new kind of paradigm where we're actually really trying to put more resources where they're needed, in addition to continuing to provide the customer service and this regular service that we provide. So as part of this overall program, which we've been working on for about a year, there is a need for community engagement. We cannot do this. We cannot improve cleanliness of our city alone, just relying on city government. We need to have people in their neighborhoods looking at this, helping out. And so this program is really trying to do that. We all know what a difference it makes when our neighborhood councils, our community leaders are focused on those issues that we need help with. And so I would like to turn it over to Fernando Compost to talk about some of the detail.
Good afternoon, Fernando Compost, Executive Officer with the Board of Public Works. It's an honor to be here before your committee today presenting this concept. This concept really grew out of the idea of how do we increase community engagement, how do we increase our quality of life, and how do we clean our streets. The idea really is broken down into 3 different areas. One is looking at a contest, a champion to challenger contest, working with our Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and also our Bureau of Sanitation on engaging the neighborhood councils on cleaning the streets. We would take the index that Commissioner Repenning indicated and use that as a baseline to rate how our streets are cleaned. The neighborhood empowerment would work with our neighborhood councils and ask them to participate in this competition. The neighborhoods councils, we have about 96 of them, as you may know. Of the 96, we think about 50 to 60% of them would be eligible to participate in this competition, simply because of the baseline index. When that is released, will determine which neighborhood councils would actually want to be part of this competition. In addition to that, the second component is dedicating about $5,000 for marketing materials. We would like to create some marketing materials, flyers, outreach events, so that we can crowdsource and also reach out to our local bids, reaching out to citizens, and then also our business communities and students across the entire city, and then also leveraging the Mayor's Volunteer Corps program so that we can get folks to actually know about this competition. The third component is looking at the public engagement and research. So we are dedicating about $5,000 to hire an intern that would be the liaison between our Bureau of Sanitation, also with our DUN, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and also with our Office of Community Beautification. The Office of Community Beautification now provides tools that the community can use to clean the streets, for example, if they need trash bags, if they need shovels, if they need forks, whatever they need to clean the streets, we have those tools readily available. So this is a great opportunity not only for the city to improve our cleanliness, but it's also a great partnership with our community, our business community, and also our Neighborhood Empowerment, Bureau of Sanitation, and our Office of Community Beautification.
Help me understand. So the contest is limited to neighborhood councils? And why is that?
So the idea is that we wanted to engage and take advantage of this system that's already in place with our neighborhood councils. It's an institution, it's a model that's already institutionalized across the entire city. So these are the major stakeholders that we can mobilize and also increase citizen participation and also volunteerism. So leveraging these models and leveraging these entities
But are
across...
are they being leveraged, or they're the ones, like I could see them more as a conduit for trying to leverage a greater participation.
Absolutely.
But like, certainly like in my district, most of the cleanups aren't taking place by the neighborhood council. They do some good ones, but it's some of the churches and the nonprofits that bring out hundreds of people and bring out and really do the big cleanups. So I'm trying to understand it. And so the material that you're using for outreach and support, is that to outreach to the neighborhood councils, or is it to outreach? The 5,000 for outreach, what is that doing?
I think the 5,000 would be, for example, for if we wanted to do T-shirts or, maybe some kind of reusable gloves, those items that, we need to get greater awareness of the 311 system. And so what are the training materials that we need? So I think it's really for us to be able to produce those types of materials that help get the word out, get the information out, and get people incentivized to be a part of this program.
What I'm worried about, just listening and help me understand why I shouldn't be, is that we're preaching to the choir, we're getting the word out to the neighborhood councils. That should be as easy as an email because they're all hooked in. They have, I don't know, they have all the neighborhood councils have lots of swag with their names on it and everything else, but it's not. If we're trying to get the word out about beautification, I would rather see a larger net.
Right.
So
And as...
I would just say that, we started with neighborhood council. We need all of the above.
Right.
And so we need everyone engaged to really make a dent on this issue. I hear what you're saying, and I think we started with neighborhood councils because they are our system, right? They are the sort of authorized community arm of the city, and so for us it made sense to start there. If you would like to, and I don't know how this works, Bianca, but if you would like to, through this discussion today, have us shape, a broader program, and we're totally open to that.
Yeah, council member, I think it's a great suggestion what you made. As we develop our guidelines and our parameters for the competition and this part of the program, we can definitely expand not only to limit the neighborhood councils, but we can also bring in other nonprofit organizations and also the business communities if they're out there that want to participate in this competition as well.
But I want to bring up another important group.
Ms. Martinez.
So I understand your desire to want to work with the neighborhood council system, but not all the neighborhood council systems are operational throughout the city. And so in my district, the homeowners associations and particularly the neighborhood watch groups are a lot more active, and they seem to have they're the real people that actually live there. And so in my area, those are usually the folks that get up on a Saturday morning and help us with the cleanups. So I'm thinking, how do we include those folks in this context? Because I love the concept, I think it's a great idea. And is there a way to perhaps, in lieu of money, can you perhaps allow them to purchase the actual equipment that's needed to actually conduct the cleanups? Because that's actually what my neighborhood watch groups want to do. They don't necessarily need the money, but they need the equipment, which allows them to go do the cleanup and have a safe place to kind of store it, and they would do them on a more regular basis. They don't need the actual cash in hand, they just need the equipment to be able to get it done.
I think that, again, I think we're very open to your suggestions. If, in terms of broadening who can apply, I think the idea
Or
behind
maybe a
this.
partnership, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Maybe a partnership between the neighborhood council that, I have some that are very proactive as well, that don't mind partnering up with maybe 5 of the local neighborhood watch groups. That usually turns out really nice. We just did one on Saturday with like 75 people. It was the neighborhood council taking the lead, and then some of the neighborhood watches being partners. So I just want to make sure that those folks are not shut out from this, because they're just as important to this conversation. They live there.
Okay.
And so they're usually the people I hear from first in terms of what needs to get cleaned up. Our chronic dumping locations are a constant issue. And so I just want to find a way to bring them into this, into the conversation, and find partnership opportunities for them as well.
I think that I think that this effort was designed to create an opportunity for residents to come to us and say, you know what, we have an idea for what would work in our neighborhood, similar to what we do with the Innovation Commission and then with you guys. We want to bring out the best and the brightest ideas. Personally, I don't care who it's from. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's like the neighborhood council system is great because we have city staff to actually help connect with them. And so it's in that way a simpler process. But if the desire here today is to expand that, I mean, let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I understand the concerns from the chairman and also Ms. Martinez. You know, we hold our neighborhood councils accountable for ensuring that they have effective strategies as it relates to creating partnerships with local nonprofits, in our case, like Clean Wilmington or Clean San Pedro or LA Conservation Corps. And I agree that we should be able to make this as flexible as possible because Matthew Doty here, one of my interns, a bright 19-year-old who uses technology. We need to lean on, you know, a younger generation to find ways to beautify our communities. And just know that, you know, it's important to advance this, but also in order for a neighborhood council to be effective, they need to know who are their key partners as it relates to forming these partnerships with local nonprofits. What's the timeline on this, on all of these grants?
So in terms of the contest will be laid out over a 12-week period. We are waiting for the mayor to release the baseline so that we can kick off the actual competition itself. We are looking at early summer time period. We did create a special appropriation account within the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, so when the monies do get transferred, we have some flexibilities in terms of conducting the competition and then also doing the evaluation.
Well, this will happen within this current fiscal cycle?
It would kick off and launch at the end of this fiscal year, but then it most likely would be concluded the first month or second month of the next fiscal year.
Okay, so we're looking at summertime.
Summertime period.
And are there restrictions on the use of the award money? So you award, you know, the grant or what are the limitations to that money and how would they use it?
There are no restrictions. It's really up to the neighborhood councils when they participate into the competition to decide what type of events they want to move forward. If we are expanding this program to include the NPOs and also bids and other business communities, it's really going to be up to the proposal that's going to be before us. At the end of the day, for us, at the end of the 12-week period, we want to make sure that we improve the cleanliness in that area. So we are using the baseline with the Clean Streets Initiative or Clean Streets LA baseline to determine how that improvement is being made in neighborhoods. For example, the rating system will be 1 through 3, 1 being clean, 3 being not clean. So those neighborhood councils that have a 3 and they move up to a 2 category or even a 1 category, those would be the neighborhood councils that would be ideally eligible for the award.
And they lay out what they're going to spend the money on prior to it?
That is correct.
And then you're evaluating basically their proposal for the micro grant type?
That is correct.
Okay.
Again, we're not limiting the neighborhood councils to forming partnerships to anyone, right? Do you get extra points for having bringing in a partner?
We can definitely expand the program. It sounds from the consensus from your committee is that you would like us to move in that direction. So as we build the guidelines and build the parameters, we would love to incorporate those ideas so that we can get greater participation into this program and we can leverage that dollar to improve our streets.
So the recommendation, I mean, as we move forward, we'll ask you to bring this one back in 2 weeks. So we'll hold this one, and we're asking some more questions. I'm not stopping the questions, but just so you know where we're headed, and then we'll most likely approve it in 2 weeks, because if we all like the idea, we just want to see it fleshed out a little bit more and broadened a little bit more.
I'm personally glad that you guys are interested enough to actually provide feedback because you know your own districts and you know what works. We are in the process right now of briefing all the council offices as we gear up to release the index, and it's something that is very interesting, and we're only going to really be successful in making a dent with the participation of your offices, specifically your district offices. So I'm glad that you're interested in this, and we've got a lot of work to do.
And is there a limitation on the number of applicants you can take? Because you don't, and how you fund, because you don't have a lot of money here to do this, how you fund the evaluation process. If you get 10,000.
Yeah, and that's the part we have to be careful. This is a great concept, and I think we can expand it and even increase the magnitude of this. But taking this concept as a pilot and just mobilizing and getting folks to participate in this concept is the main objective for us. So because of the limitation of the 25K, it's just going to take us so far. So that's why we narrowed it down to the neighborhood council, so that we know exactly what that population set looks like. Right now we know it's 96. We assume about 50 to 66% participation in this program. So that way it would allow us to manage this concept a little bit and take it from beginning to end into fruition, so that we can see some results. If we expand the program too broad with the limit that we have in terms of the funding, then the participation may be decreased, or we may get less reception from this program. So for me, taking your recommendations in terms of adding these components to the guidelines and the parameters is the main takeaway. We'd like to mobilize this as quickly as possible. We are more than happy to come back in 2 weeks, but moving this item forward for us is it's very important, so that we can mobilize and get the concepts going, and then get the funding so that we can start engaging the citizens as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I could see, and just the thought is that down the road, if this proves a successful model, it's something that neighborhood councils actually start doing directly with their money, that they start having micro grants to reach out to other folks.
That's the idea.
So in as much as it gets framed a little bit more that direction, as opposed to neighborhood councils thinking this is the way we're getting more money, them to start to think, hey, this is a way we can leverage our dollars that we do get to clean up our neighborhood, and then maybe get more dollars for that kind of thing. So any other
Absolutely.
questions on this one, colleagues?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Personnel Department is requesting $121,000 for the license and implementation of an electronic web-based background investigation software for firefighter background checks. The software, known as eSoft, would transition the background candidates process to complete forms online, and allowing background investigators and other authorized city personnel to review the data that will be stored on a secured cloud system, which would prevent unauthorized access to candidate data. The Commission sees this as a time and money-saving opportunity. And I have representatives from personnel to give more detail.
Good afternoon. I'm John Dunlop with the Personnel Department.
Good afternoon, and I'm David Lubley with the Personnel Department Backgrounds.
And this eSoft system is a paperless background system, and right now our background process is very paper intensive. The background packages are actually confidential documents, but each one is probably about as thick as my little binder here, about 2 to 3 inches, and it's filled with all kinds of paper that's submitted by candidates, as well as references, employers, landlords, and the like. So when we process approximately 1,200 to 1,500 cases per year, we have a lot of paper that's being processed. eSoft is a web-based program, so that way it actually improves the experience for candidates as well. They don't have to submit all this paperwork. They can actually complete things online, and it gets submitted online. Currently, for example, to initiate the background process, they have to submit a personal history statement that's about 27 pages long, and they can type it out, but they have to turn it in the paper. And as they type it out, they're entering information regarding, for example, their references. But if they enter that online into this system, when we get the paper document, we hand it to clerical staff who send out reference checks to all the references. Now, if they enter it directly into the system, this will get emailed to the references. So we can see some real advantages to processing that way. And in addition to that, internal processing will be much more efficient. There's a review process among the different levels that will be accomplished online rather than paper documents being moved around. There's review that's done within the personnel department at the psych. There's review that's done at the fire department, and packages are actually transported back and forth in order to accomplish that. With this system, that will all be able to be done online via this web-based program. So it will cut down time, create a better experience for those who are processing, as well as for the candidates. And it actually will bring us into the 21st century, I think.
It sounds great. It sounds like something that would have been really cutting edge 10 years ago. But I'm shocked that we're not doing it already. Is there an estimate of how much we would save in terms of staffing costs?
I believe that
Basically, we looked at the support staff cost alone. Over a one-year period, we're looking at a savings between support staff labor and stationary supplies of about $36,000 on that one item. And this doesn't include the time for the investigators on what they do. Give an example, as John indicated. In the past, either support staff or the investigators will type up, fold the paperwork, put it in an envelope, and mail it to references or people that we need to have contact with, police agencies or that case. So after that's done, we have to wait maybe 4 or 5 weeks for those returns to come back. With ESOF, as soon as the candidate enters the information, the program is set up where it has names, addresses of all the police agencies in the United States. It takes the information that the candidate enters on references, and they automatically attach a waiver and send the information out to each one of the references and to the police departments to check for the backgrounds. Now, what this does is, I've contacted 2 different agencies that currently use ESOF. One, Washington, D.C. Police Department. They indicated to me that on average, when they did it by hand, and I can agree with it from our usage, that we may get 4 or 5 responses that are written. They're testifying, and I have no reason to doubt them, that they're getting 40 to 60 returns. And these are just from information generated by ESOF program itself. And they're getting them within 2 to 3 days instead of waiting 4 to 6 weeks. So what I think our ultimate goal is, and something that we've always tried to do in backgrounds, and I think we've done a really good job operationally trying to reduce the amount of time that we spend on a background, because every agency needs to have their people hired. They don't need any delays. So we've done a good job operationally reducing the time that we're involved in the background itself. We need this program to take us to the next step so we can reduce the time even more so we can provide a better product to our client in an expedited fashion.
Great. Is 1 year going to be enough time to prove it out?
I think 1 year will. I think we'll get some good metrics within 6 to 8 months because we can look at the expenditures we have for both stationary and labor costs. And the other thing is how quickly we turn our cases over. Right now, each one of the investigators may have 10 to 14 cases each. If we see that we can assign them more quicker, obviously we're having an overall impact on the operation. And that's what our ultimate goal is to get as many people through the process as possible so we can fill those vacant positions in the fire department, which is, they need the people right now.
Colleagues?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thanks for advancing this forward. We've heard from our fire chief time and time again that we need to find ways and better efficiencies within the background investigations as it relates to the fire department. My concern is the personal data. Can you ensure that the information is protected through encryption so that you don't have access to the personal information and files?
The great thing about ESOF is twofold. The first one is we had our city IT department look at the program when we first started investigating it. They determined that the security protocols for ESOF are greater than what the city currently has in-house. So that's not an issue. The second thing is as we electronically send this information out, ESOF has a capability of, give an example, we would send the file once we're done with it to medical services. We can say that they have an open window. We provide them a 4-digit code. You can go in within this 1 week or 2 week period, whatever we say. You can access the folder for your needs, and at the end of that period, you're locked out forever. So it doesn't go to anyone's computer. It doesn't reside in anyone's computer. It actually resides within what they call the Amazon government cloud, and it's a very secure process. And it stays in that location, and people can access it from computers as long as you have that password. If you don't have the password, you can't get access. And so we can control it. We can even lock people out after the investigation is done, so even the investigator or someone like that can't go back to see it.
Thank you.
Ms. Martinez?
George just asked my question. Thanks, Joe.
Joe, what are you doing, stealing? Well, great. Without objection, we'll be moving forward on this item. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate the support,
you.
too.
And we have one more.
Yes, for our last item, the Personnel Department is requesting $37,018 for the purchase of an electronic digital X-ray system. This will be used in Personnel's Medical Services Division and would eliminate the use of chemicals needed currently used for X-ray imaging.
Hi, I'm Joanne O'Brien with Medical Services Personnel Department.
Steve Kalb, nurse manager for the city.
Our current process is the old-fashioned X-rays where you take the film and you put it in the chemical and it takes a bit of processing, and then the X-ray tech brings it and takes it over to the physician. What we're requesting is to go digital, and that's in part because most facilities have digital X-rays. If you've all been to your own physician, they give you a CD and then you can take it maybe to the specialist. And because most medical clinics have a digital X-ray, what the county is requesting that we do a certain QA because we're not digital, and we have to do 6 to 7 of these X-rays. We have to take 6 to 7 X-rays a day and then put them in the chemical and process them to make sure our machine is taking the right picture. So this is at a cost of about $5,000 a year, and if we go to the digital, it's going to be about $1,400, not to mention the chemicals. In addition, that you've all seen a chest X-ray, they're very large, and a big giant envelope. We have to house and store those up to 30 years past the employee's last day of employment. So it's not only a storage, it's hazardous chemicals, it's time, and more expensive.
Inez, you want to start? Go ahead.
We do our own X-rays? I didn't know that.
We do. The Medical Services Division has a beautiful clinic. It's on Temple. It's about 5 years old. We have a beautiful X-ray machine. In part why we do this is many of our employees, police, fire, lifeguards, our rec and park people that deal with children, we have to screen them for tuberculosis, which is ongoing. So
does this save the city money by having to hire our own X-ray technicians and our staff, medical staff?
Right, we do have an X-ray tech on staff. Right.
Is this cheaper?
Yes, we would have to, because of the OSHA regulations and also the public health regulations, we would have to contract out for these services if we didn't do them in-house.
I learned something new today. I didn't know we did.
Okay.
Well, this makes perfect sense. I just didn't know we did our own X-rays. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. How much will we save from this in terms of staff time and everything else?
It'll take about an hour a day for the X-ray tech to conduct the QA. So that hour a day, not to mention when we take a digital X-ray, it's immediately available to the provider. So in terms of having to wait for the X-ray to be processed, to give it to the physician, wait for the physician to have time, he can immediately pull it up, he or she, in their computer. It'll save about $4,000 a year because we won't have to buy the chemicals. Once this system is bought, the $37,000, it's bought, and we need to keep it at about $1,400 a year.
So $4,000 a year, chemicals, an hour a day, staff time, $1,400 versus $5,000, a year also. So why haven't we done this? It's a money like this. It's great and it's kind of innovative, and I'm happy to fund it through this. But why hasn't the department just done this 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, or last year?
I know we have been focusing on moving to electronic medical records. So for us, which we are moving to in occupational health, so that was sort of our first focus. So this was the next round.
I mean, because in some ways. I see how definitely it's an innovative thing and we should fund it. It's gone through this process. But some of these innovative things, you think, this should just be a no-brainer budget move. In your budget, you do this. You take the money that's being allocated for X-rays and you put it to digital X-rays, and it costs less and it saves more. You don't need to go through the innovative fund to do that.
The requirement for the QA is new. So that's why we didn't have to do that before. But now we have to do the 6 to 7 a day, which cost about $5,000.
So if we
So that's
didn't-
a new regulation.
If we didn't
so-
fund it through the Innovation Fund, why wouldn't it be funded through the regular budget? I mean, because it is such an obvious no-brainer, just the dollars that you gave me where it costs less. Why do we need to go the Innovation Fund route?
When we were inspected, it came to light that we needed to do this QA. It was a new regulation, so we didn't request it in the normal budgetary manner, so it sort of came after. So it's a good question.
Okay, because of course we have the budget coming up.
Right,
But
right.
that being said, that's sort of a curiosity I have with a number of these items, but I don't want to slow this one down either, so I'm happy
That's a good point, though.
to move it forward if there's no
Get this
objection.
stuff funded when we need it, so we can move this stuff faster, not wait for this particular fund to fund.
Yeah, or just do it when it makes sense to just do it in the budget process. I mean, we have a budget coming up right now. Granted, this is this year's fiscal year money, and budget is for next year, but you're only talking about 6 months.
You're not afraid to ask for them.
No, not at all, not at all. But
Someone
the
didn't tell you.
timing had to do with the inspection, and as you know, we start at a department level, our budget very early in December. And as a division and a department, we come up with, as a group, what we want. And we didn't realize we needed this until the new regulation came out, so.
My colleagues, any objections to moving forward on this one? Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. That's a great, and appreciate you bringing it. It seems like a great step forward.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to recommend is that we, on this item, we adopt the CAO recommendations for items 1, 3, and 4. We hold, number 2 of this item, the clean contest, to have them come back in 2 weeks with the instructions that were given by the committee to broaden the contest and address the other issues that were addressed, and then we'll hear that next week. But it's all in a very positive, supportive vein that we're doing that. And any objections to that?
And Mr. Chair, because we are removing or having one of the items come back in 2 weeks, it is going to change the recommendations. So can we make the request of the Innovation and the CAO Innovation and Performance Commission to give us some modified recommendations? Because there is an attachment that needs to be modified, as well as items number 1, 2, and 3 of the recommendations will also be modified.
Well, explain it to me. We have to do an up or down? We can't just modify it as a committee?
You can, but it will be cleaner because numbers are going to change. For example, it says transfer $293,018, and now that number is going to change to $258,000.
So how do you recommend it? And ask them to instruct the commission to send us the modified version? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, and we've done this.
Then we have to apply. We have to then prove. I don't want to slow down numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, no, we can approve it as is, but if they could just give me the specifics of what the recommendations will be so we can move it forward to council as quickly as possible.
Sounds great. You want to restate it for the record, what your proposed, achieving the goal that we're trying to achieve, how you would frame it?
Yes, we would need recommendations number 1, 2, and 3 to be modified, and also to get a modified attachment 1.
No, you said 1, 2, oh, okay, recommendations, yes.
Recommendations,
Okay.
yes.
And then modify attachment 1, okay.
Yes, and then I would also add that we are going to bring back the Board of Public Works proposal back in 2 weeks.
Okay. Without objection, that's clear to everybody? Okay. Without objection, that'll be so ordered. And I believe that it's our last time. Anything else on our agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
No other public cards? Great. Then this
Thank
meeting
you
is
very
adjourned.
much.
Thank you very much.